It's critical because business is a lot about storytelling. Because entrepreneurship is a long-term game, you need to be really passionate about the idea that you're going to follow, right? About your business. So our social media presence has two sides. One is the fun side, of course. It allows us self-expression. It allows us to connect with friends and family. It also allows us to express our views, sometimes political views, sometimes business views, in an open platform, in a public platform, very easily. But there is a downside to it as well. Whatever we publish on social media remains forever. And basis what we publish, people can gather information about us. They can form perceptions about us. So from the downside management, there are 4 things that women and girls need to be careful of. The first one, of course, is safety. Because we post inadvertently, a lot of things. We put location stamp, we put time stamp, we put our pictures out there. People are stalking us. They can reach us. Sometimes if we are not at home, they can reach our home. So we leave ourselves or our homes or our loved ones vulnerable by posting a lot without being careful of who we are posting it to. The second thing is around IP protection or identity theft. Again, there are people who can take our identities online. They can use it for their nefarious means. Often the passwords that we use are either very easy to crack, or we're using social media as a way to log into multiple apps. So if somebody manages to crack into one password, they can get access to many more things than they would have otherwise got, right? So things that we put out there can be stolen. Our ideas, especially if they need to be protected, there is a chance that somebody can pick on those ideas. The third thing is about perception control. Now, we may not care about it because, after all, it's about self-expression. It doesn't really matter what anybody thinks. But often, employers, admissions officers, vendor partners, they all check out what we are posting online. I've personally had occasions where some senior members, some senior colleagues at board level positions have said, well, your social media profile doesn't really reflect seriousness. So I've had to change my image. There have been occasions where we've had small internal, our company team get-togethers, and somebody in the wider ecosystem has said, oh, well, you made us work while you were, having a good time and a gala time. So people read a lot into it, and sometimes it can lead us into trouble or altercations, even if we didn't want to. So we just need to be careful about that. And finally, the fourth thing is mental health, because social media today can be extremely vitriolic. What we put out there is open to interpretation, and people can pick on words, people can pick on ideas, and they can get back to us in a very sharp and stringent way, and that can be hurtful at times. So it's very critical to have that space away from it, to know that what we put in social media may or may not be real enough. It may have a separation from real life. So if it's getting too much, we need to maintain our sanity and maintain a balance of the time that we spend. And finally, the fifth thing, which holds true for everybody, and especially for young students, young working professionals, that our minds, our memories, our perception gets totally fractionated by the amount of time that we spend on social media. And it's very critical that certain tasks require full attention, and hence we give it the full attention that is needed. And in those times, we stay away from social media. For me, feminism is about having a choice of what I want to do, who I want to be, what I want, my life to be, what I want to say, what I want to wear, what I want to project myself as. That to me is freedom. If we see, historically, feminism has been through multiple waves. In the first wave, at the turn of the previous century, it was all about women getting votes and voting rights. And that was the suffragette movement that happened in the UK and in the US, and women got the right to vote. The second phase happened mostly around the post-World War era, where women were seeking access. They were seeking access to education. They were seeking access to work. Now, even at that time, that access was fairly unequal, because there were women of, there were certain women of privilege who always had more access to education than others. And similarly, in terms of working, there were always women who needed to work for supporting their families, and they were working even before, but others had to choose and fight for that right to work. The third wave of feminism sort of happened in the late 80s, early 90s, and it sort of continued for a fairly long period of time. That was a very diffused period in the sense that it was about balance. It was not really so much about having a harsh stance, but it was still seeking a lot more equal opportunity, equal pay for equal kind of work done, because gender pay gaps are very common, and they still continue to be common around the world, pretty much in every industry. And then, in the last few years, with the rise of social media, with the rise of activism, and with the vocalism of this current generation, there's been the Me Too movement. There's been a lot more online activism of various kinds to figure out and to uncover predatory behaviors where they exist, and they do exist. So that's the shape of feminism in the last few years. But again, going back to me, right? So for me, feminism, as I said, was about making a choice. It was about staying in the game, so not stepping away. It's about the effort that I put in the game, right? Because it's a two-way street, and being there requires not just the environment to be equitable, for the ecosystem to be accepting, but me and each one of us to put in that effort to be there, to not opt out. Sometimes we may need to pause for a variety of reasons. It's not always children that require us to have flexibility. Sometimes it's health, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's alternate passions, or we might be burnt out. So for whatever reason, you might choose flexibility. But at the same time, we have to ensure that it's a comma, not a full stop. So we come back to it. There might be obstructions in the way, there might be bends, and we need to accept it. We need to flow along with it, and we need to make sure that our effort counts, our voice count, our ideas and opinions count, right? And we have the choice to get heard, right? So that to me is feminism. So entrepreneurship is fairly challenging in India for male or female entrepreneurs because the ecosystem is hard. The way people buy, both government and enterprises buy innovation or work with startups can be tough. The payment cycles are extremely long. The value consciousness is pretty high. So in general, entrepreneurship can be tough for anybody. Now, as a female entrepreneur, there are a certain set of unique things that you need to take care of or worry about or counter. The first thing, of course, is perception. And especially when we have, in my company, we have enterprise clients, we have large government clients. So there is always that moment where you feel that you need to prove yourself, where you need to be taken seriously with every new client, with every new interaction. And the way to do that is really to make an extra effort, to go the extra mile, to research even deeper, so that when we are across the table and we are sitting with a client trying to solve their problems, we come across knowledgeable, we come across as somebody who's adding value, so that the person in front can appreciate who we are and what we're bringing to the table. And the same thing holds true even when we're dealing internally, because again, employees, teammates, everyone is really looking at you, looking up to you, observing you, and it is really exhibiting certain behaviors which motivate the team along. You have to be on the job, you have to be sort of at it continuously, not just motivating by words, but motivating by action. And again, internally, while I might not be the expert in every aspect of the business, every technology and the depth of tech that we deal with, it still is critical that in every internal conversation, there is a certain value that I do bring to the table. And when I don't know, I'm collaboratively bringing in the voices of people who know what they're talking about in that particular domain. And then finally, the last thing about being a woman is that we shouldn't get into stereotypes, right? So the typical stereotype is a nurturing boss or a very demanding, bitchy boss. And, we all have aspects of multiple aspects in ourselves, and different situations and different people demand different reactions. So we need to be able to switch from one kind of reaction to the other kind of reaction. I often play tag team with my founding team members because, sometimes I have to be the tough one with a client or a colleague, and my, my co-founders are soft. And then sometimes it's vice versa. I'm the ameliorating person. I'm the one who's bringing everyone together onto a common platform to have a dialogue, versus somebody else is playing the tough cop at that moment. So it's important to have that sort of a support network with your team, with your senior leadership team, with your co-founders, so that you can make that happen. And there is also the fact that if we expect a lot of ourselves, right, and we demonstrate that we're expecting a lot of ourselves and delivering to that expectation in terms of effort, in terms of outcome, in terms of our commitment, it's only then can we expect the same thing from our teams, right? So it becomes very important to have that out there. And it's not really about balance. It's really about having that commitment, the passion, the perseverance to get the job done. And that's what is required. And that's what you need to demonstrate day in and day out to your teams and to your clients and to the wider ecosystem. At Gaia, our culture is very open, flexible. We're a very agile and innovative team. And so that flexibility is really inbuilt into the way we operate and the way we run our company. To some extent, it comes from my personal ethos and from the ethos of my founding team, of our founder and co-founders. But as they say in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So with flexibility comes accountability, right? So we don't expect a different set of accountabilities of our female team members. In fact, it is if it's equal flexibility, if it's egalitarian, then it needs to be equal commitment from everybody. As a company, though we're a startup, we are serving large enterprises. We're serving top tier government institutions and government organizations. So it's very critical that our team remains committed. I have women engineers on the team, and in the spirit of equal opportunity and equal participation, these women engineers, they go on the field, they go to visit client sites. If they need to work with technicians, they deal with technicians. When they need to deal with fellow engineers, they deal with fellow engineers. When they need to deal with clients and have tough conversations, we enable them to have those tough conversations with clients at times when it is required. Similarly, on the business and the sales side, our team members, the male team members and the female team members, everybody needs to engage with clients. And in 24/7 operations that we support, right, for our clients through tech-enabled solutions, challenges can occur at every time. At any time of the day, any time of early morning, late night. So team members, if escalations come and if it's really critical, people need to rise to the occasion. So yes, there's flexibility, there is egalitarianism, but it comes with a set of responsibilities. And we also do understand we're a very supportive team, so we do understand that people have challenges. There are phases that people go through, somebody's kid has an exam, somebody's child has a board exam, somebody's family may need health support, somebody might be having a baby. So it's all a part of life, and life goes on, and we need to ensure that we create the space and the time and the flexibility needed to allow our team members to take care of their responsibilities beyond work. But when they come back after having that flexi time, then we do expect them to be 100% engaged, because that is what business requires today, right? So it's a situation where you contribute, but also there's enough to take away. So my message for women entrepreneurs and aspirants would be fourfold: passion, purpose, partnerships, and perseverance. So in terms of passion, because entrepreneurship is a long-term game, you need to be really passionate about the idea that you're going to follow, right, about your business. And it need not be oh, I love music and hence I will have a business that is in the music domain. You do really need to look at whether the addressable market for that business is large enough, whether you will have the ability to scale it to some extent or not, whether there are enough people demanding that particular product or solution that you're trying to sell. But whatever it is, you will need to develop, create, and sustain a level of passion for your idea and for your business for a period of time. So be prepared for that. The second one is purpose. I think it's very important. One is at a higher level, what is your vision and mission of your company? What do you want to achieve? But also, you need to know, who are you impacting? What problem are you solving? Is that problem critical enough or not critical enough? Right? Whose life will be transformed by your product or by your solution? Are you one more in a crowded category? Are you highly distinct? Right? And all of this defines to some extent the purpose with which you approach your company, the purpose with which you approach your business. And it's critical because business is a lot about storytelling, telling your story to your teammates, to your colleagues, to potential recruits, to the market, to clients, to stakeholders, to investors, right? So if you align what you're doing, your idea, with a purpose, with a larger transformation or an outcome that you want to achieve through the business, then it's easier to tell that story. The third thing is about partnerships, because we can't do it alone, right? If we do it alone, it will be really difficult to scale. We need complementary skills around us. We need to take clients in the journey. We need early adopters who believe in our story. We need advocates, clients who will vouchsafe for us, for our solution, for our product, right? So all of that requires a partnership mindset that we need to take people along in the journey, and it is a long journey indeed. And finally, it's about perseverance, because there are no easy answers in entrepreneurship. It takes its time for a business to grow, develop, sustain, and really thrive and scale. So we need to have the stamina, and it's not an easy journey. So we need to have the inner ability to motivate ourselves, to pick ourselves up from the hard knocks. Because in a business or in any sales scenario, will hear more no's than we will hear yeses, right? So a no doesn't mean that our idea doesn't have takers. It just means that we need to knock on more doors. And that requires a certain amount of resilience. That requires a certain amount of saying, okay, today is a new day. I shall brush myself up and be ready to rise and shine and face the new day. And that's what's required. So all the best, all of you out there who are going to be looking at starting your businesses or who've already started your businesses. I wish you all the best.